speech on something that's somewhat viewed as a sensitive subject due to the connotations of it, so that nobody really likes to talk about, or just generally doesn't talk about, and that is role-playing. Now, role-playing is something just for nerds, right? Like Dungeons and Dragons, nerdy hovels, and strangely attractive female trolls named Desmond. These are the norm, correct? Wrong. Kind of. I've kind of seen all of these things. Role-playing is the cooperative creation of a story via immersion into someone, something other than yourself. By putting a part of your soul on the line, creating a long-lasting, if not extremely strange memory. Forge a stroke of the pen, press the keyboard, roll of the somewhat sweaty dice you made the mistake of using after a guy nicknamed Sweaty Steve. Doing any of these things makes you an author, one of many who will forge a unique and ever-expanding story whilst stuffing around, of course. In fact, half the time you're doing just that and don't realize what exactly you've created and done until it becomes an important memory. There's such ridiculous things as carrots blowing up the universe just by sitting there on the table. That happened once with me when I was in a bar, and the post was around 3,000 words. Carrot blowing up the universe. Now, the community of role-players, whilst it does have the generic Sweaty Steve and Mary Sue of role-playing, is almost entirely unlike what most people presume it to be. It's like people assuming all teenagers are boisterous and love partying and intend on trying hardcore drugs. Fun. The communities I've at the very least seen are full of highly intellectual and generally funny people. Of course, that's not everyone. They're normal people like everyone else, and so Mary Sue and her friends do have their place. Most people who roleplay do so for one of three reasons, which I'll outline. Reason one, they want to hit imaginary things with imaginary, extremely impressive and shiny weapons. Yes. And reason two, they wish to be a known puppet called Felipe the Fabulous. I have roleplayed with this person. They're one of the most hilarious people to roleplay ever, and yet they're a lot more serious than you'd think. Or reason three, they want to create a story whilst loving each other's epic failures, and that option also comes with the handiness of being the first and second option. To demonstrate that, I once did a game called Pathfinder, which is a Dungeons and Dragons game, with my friend Kai, who's in the audience. We spent a lot of time going through this and eventually adventuring, and it ended up I blew his face off not once, but twice. Not sure how that ended up, but it happened. And obviously, I'm a role player. I know it's completely mind-blowing, considering I'm doing a speech on it and just stated I blew his brains out. And I have seen pantheons of gods fight demons, whilst innocent bystanders kind of sit in the corner and go, well crap, I'm kind of going to die. I've seen hellhounds chase dwarves down the street, and it's totally the dwarf I'm talking about. That's actually what came up from Google, so you know. I've seen a half-naked demon stumble through a forest with a horde of, again, strangely attractive cyborg zombies after him. This was voted an attractive character by the community, and I'm not sure why they had a poll for this, considering it was completely irrelevant, but it happened and this one won. That last one was me. I was the half-naked demon, and I won't be going into the details of why he was half-naked due to not being PG-13, or something similar. But it doesn't matter how ridiculous or strange any of it sounds, it's a clear and distinct happy memory for me. And there's a long and frankly amazing story behind most of it. That last one had around 2 months or something ridiculous like that of plot behind it, which led up to that strange event occurring, although admittedly something's just utterly and completely random, such as the hellhound chasing the dwarf down the street. Now, there is a writer named Raymond Ilias Feist, which is an extremely fancy name, and I'm not entirely sure why Ilias. But he's an author who based his books off his adventures as a D&D player, and is a player of a game similar to Dungeons & Dragons, which he and his friends created and now publish books and campaigns for as a large company. He has written at least 11 series of books, which fall under the Rift War cycle, a set of books set in the same general world, which is the world of his Dungeons & Dragons adventures, the same characters, the same setting, the same quests, all of that, and he has written 11 series based on that, as far as I know. And this is my own personal goal for the future, to take my role-playing and turn into a career, and take all of my memories and turn something huge and well-known amongst people, although this isn't that well-known. Currently I'm a long way off, but I'm still in high school, so there's still hope. Possibly. I'm going to head towards something a little more personal here, and that is my own OCs, my own original characters. At the very least, some of them. I have 36, so not exactly going to do all of them. And each and every one of these characters is a piece of me, a piece of my soul I've exposed to the world and used to create a story, a part of my own personality, which is disturbing since a good portion of them are utter psychopaths. And I kind of hope that's a coincidence, but you never know. To get my point across, we're going to be focusing on these two special OCs. And that is one on the left, which is Strife Bloodrose, my first ever character, whom I still use to this day. He's around 3 years old. And the one on the right is River Satrix, someone I literally made, actually it's close to 3 weeks ago now. And now both of them, as you can see, have some addictions, and again, I hope that's coincidence and not a, I don't know, foreseeing of the future. I'll mostly be focusing on Strife due to his age, but River is there as a comparison as to what vastly different role-playing you can do. As another example of that, further on here, I'm going to talk about something called the multiverse. It is the collective reality of everything. There's a place called Gambit's Bar, which is basically a bar in the center of absolutely all existence that you could end up in at any time. And I have been a hellhound, a giant worm, and also at one point, I believe, a midget carrot knight, all in that one place. And no matter how vastly different your role-playing is, no matter who you are or what you do, chances are, if you end up in this place on my website, you will be extremely drunk. You have no choice in this. If you are not drunk, somebody will make you drunk. Just happens. Now, Strife stars a character in a Minecraft server called Lord of the Craft, or LOTC. He looked kind of like this, and was your average sober high elf, which you find around the place walking the streets, as you do. And my grade of RP is as you would expect for a basic and limited chat system. Interacts were quick, real-time, and I could act about the game along with my speaking. When I first joined, I was lucky enough to immediately act in a promo trailer for the overarching fantasy war story they had between the Ascended and the Undead, along with a few other people, and which led to role-playing and eventually meeting up with the other actors in the Elvish capital called Laurelin, which is a name that is extremely generic and used in dozens of fantasy books. And finding a place to stay in the form of someone's home they allowed strangers into. Not exactly safe, but I was an extremely trustworthy high elf without an alcohol problem at this point. So, you know. And here's when I made some of my best friends I've ever had. An epic dwarf named Alexander, who later became my drinking buddy. I still play games like League of Legends with him, and we go nostalgia mode on all the massive arguments we had in character and the hours literally we spent getting drunk in a hot tub that was in the storage shed for no reason. And an elf called Larinia, who later became my character's crush and kind of his goal to date. Together we turned our temporary lodging in Larinia's treehouse into a full-blown inn named Treetop Inn. I spent probably 1.5 years in what was once a tiny tree hut, building it and creating plot lines, participating in wars, and forging long-lasting memories and friends whom I still have on Skype today. Unfortunately, after many undead takeovers, forced murder attempts, suicides, wars, I was spent getting drunk again in the hot tub. And, you know, there was drugs in this. Again, I hope that's a coincidence. For no reason, I have the basis of being called a town along with royal blessing, which we're not sure how we got, considering it was just a bunch of drunk people. Strife, unfortunately, came to an end at the hands of a guild in an abrupt execution. Sad, I know, he never got to date Larinia either, and many a drunken night was spent with Alexander, lamenting over that, again, in our hot tub. If you haven't gotten it yet, I've spent several months, probably in total, just sitting in a hot tub role-playing with this person. Not sure why, but the server that he started on, everyone seemed to have a hot tub in their house. So even when we left our storage shed, we'd go to our friend's house and then get drunk in their hot tub. And then we move on from that and go over to the royal house and the council, and we get drunk in their hot tub. And then we get out of that and we go to war and we get drunk drunk in the orcs' hot tub, and then they drop us in lava and we die. Like, hey, hot tubs! Like, dude. But it was fun because he was reborn as an almost identical elf with a different personality. He went for another year of adventures in hot tubs in an entirely different place. Yes, that had about 50 hot tubs in it, all thanks to me. Now that's a story for another time. In total I spent around 3 years in Lord of the Craft alone, and with all the problems I had in real life, how immersed I was in character and how excited I was when I got to use them, they were easily the best 3 years of my life. I helped shape and create an entire world that by Minecraft standards was pretty impressive despite a ridiculous amount of hot tubs. Of course it got burnt down and they made a new one because of plot, but hey, it was pretty cool, and the new one kind of had 1 billion hot tubs as well, so just became tradition, I guess. I can tell exactly how Strife reacts to every situation off the top of my head. It probably sounds nerdy to a bunch of you, but working with others creates such a massive and overarching story by immersing ourselves as these characters. That's why role-playing shouldn't be looked at in that way. How I doubt everything was wait for it. My friend found me like the best picture ever. It's a reference to Dark Souls. Jolly cooperation! That's right. Like I said at the start, and constantly throughout, still holds true. Jolly cooperation is how you do everything in role-playing. You can't role-play with yourself. It doesn't work. You can't. Unless you have 2 characters and you just bounce back and forth, in which case you kind of have a problem. And since those 3 years, my ability in English skills have evolved drastically. I've recently joined a new website in under 1 year. Here are my stats real quick. 118,925 words were written, all my stats last week. By today, I've got 127,554 words written. That's, the posts are wrong because I haven't edited that. That's around 1,200 total posts. My average has gone up to 100 words per post, which in reality is around 1,000, but it doesn't scale very well. 10 role players played, 119.2 posts per role play, and 48.8 for average days in role play, equivalent of probably more like 1.27 novels in 6 to 7 months. Now, as if my teachers were already annoyed enough that they have to constantly write does not hand in work in a lot of my assessments and on my report cards in big red letters all the time. Well, there you go. I've written almost 1.5 novels in the meantime, so. Now, it seems like a lot, but the biggest roleplay on there, the multiverse, which is the collective reality of every universe and all existence, which I stated earlier, cooperatively, the word again, for the billionth time, has these stats. 1,408 days old, that's 3.8 years, 83,065,244 words, which is outdated by a week, so that's probably gone up by another 200,000. 26,020 characters, and it's the equivalent of 615.29 novels, collectively and properly made, mostly high quality and uni-grade material, as proven by a test that they have on there, which I'm not sure how legit it is, but apparently it is, entirely reliable judging sets on an analyzing program that they've pieced together from uni judging and other judging things that they've discovered and gone through. So, I'm just really a small fry in what is a bloody big ocean. Each of these posts and plots and characters, no matter how small, mean a lot to people. So much so that they order commissions on Divine Art, which is our website, purchasing traditional and digital paintings, pay for full-blown works of art for their characters, their locations, just to have a piece of their personality, to just have a vision, a tangible representation to preserve their memory and that one piece of them. That character and its friends, its lovers, and its singular story. Role-playing is a big and important thing, and it means a lot more than you think it does. It's more than what people know it is, and that's what I'm trying to get across. In case you think it's just a minority thing, I'll cover all bases here and move on to my next bit, which is about the popularity of it in reality. Most people here, at least the teenagers, which is most of you, I think, or those who stick to the main part of YouTube, should have heard of the Yogscast. Now, Now, they originally started as a World of Warcraft role-playing guild, and they were that for a very long time. Eventually started making Minecraft videos, and these videos in tandem with their friends and guildmates such as, Sips and Duncan and all of that lot. They created the most popular running series that they had, which launched them to YouTube fame, which is The Shadow of Israfel. That was one big roleplay over a long period of time with lots of planning and thought behind it. It's the kind of roleplay that I used to do with Strife, weirdly enough, and yet it launched into mainstream media and everyone loved it. It was cool, it was funny, it was popular. Yet people still have this conception of role-playing being a nerdy minority thing, and nothing more. It's a little strange. I'm going to finish off here, eventually, and leave you with one last little bit, how role-playing can help you in real life. Imagine that. I'm a rubbish public speaker. I get nerves, and despite doing drama and writing poetry, as you do, I find it increasingly and insanely difficult to remember things and perform at my best. So this one wants to put on a little bit of a facade. Despite my obvious and iconic afro making me relatively known throughout this, to give myself a bit of an edge, I've taken a personality more akin to Strife Bloodrose, my character from earlier. I'm using my experience of him and how he acts to help me through this presentation to give myself a bit of a wall to feel more comfortable speaking to you all. Something I do on a regular basis, which admittedly makes it seem pretty inconsistent personality-wise, but it really helps me. To finish this off once and for all, I'd like to invite everyone here to have a go at role-playing in one form or another, even if you're shy or still think it's embarrassing or nerdy. There is a link to the website in which I role-play on, and the names of a few people once you join to message if you're new. None of them know I'm asking anybody to message them whatsoever, but they're all genuinely nice people, and I hope they won't murder me. They're all inclined to argue with anybody who messages them randomly. I'm not entirely sure why, but it just happens. And they help me get started and comfortable on the site. Patcharu up there, he's an Australian. He's from the multiverse, and he by himself has written 3% of that. So that's pretty ridiculous, considering he's just one person. And Questionable Object is a GM in my roleplay that I run. He's from New Zealand. He's a really cool guy, but he's relatively strict and he'll help you go on the right path. Nobody's Hero is a random I met who helped me get into it. Slightly Irregular is also a complete random I met who helped me get into role-playing, and I've been talking to them for a long time now, and they're always extremely helpful. If you want me to write down the link or anything like that, or have any questions, even if it's embarrassing, feel free to come up to my antisocial, non-Strife Bloodrose self after this presentation, and I'd be happy to do so. As another example of how this helped me, despite being Strife Bloodrose and putting on extremely weird accents and facade. It helps me get through everyday life, because I'm one of the most antisocial people you'll ever meet, and yet I managed to speak in front of a TED audience with barely any troubles aside from the fact that I say facade and like hot cups. Other than that, thanks for listening.